5 years after returning a gorilla to the wild, a man calls his name in the Gabon jungle. The response was something no one expected. Settle in for their journey. If you believe in the power of these stories, a simple like helps our channel immensely. This story begins not in the dense rainforests of Africa, but in the green rolling hills of Kent, England. Here lies the Howletts Wild Animal Park, a place founded on a radical principle by Damian Aspinall's father. The belief that the humans who care for animals should forge deep, personal, and trusting relationships with them. Damian inherited this conviction with his entire being. From a young age, he lived among the gorillas, not as a distant keeper, but as a member of their extended family. And among these powerful, intelligent primates was a young western lowland gorilla named Kwibi. Born in captivity, Kwibi knew Damian as a constant, gentle presence. Their bond was not one of owner and animal, but of two personalities sharing a space built on mutual respect. We see them playing, a young man tumbling with the even younger ape, a connection forged in touch, sound, and an unspoken understanding. But for Damian, the goal was never just to keep these animals as exhibits. The ultimate purpose, the most profound act of love, was always to give them back their freedom. And so, when Kwibi came of age, the decision was made. He was ready to return to the wild, to a protected sanctuary in the vast wilderness of Gabon. It was the fulfillment of a promise, but it was also a farewell that began a long chapter of silence and uncertainty. The journey back was not a simple one. It was a pilgrimage fueled by a question that haunted Damian for 5 long years. Does a bond forged in captivity survive the call of the wild? He traveled from the familiar comfort of England back to the vibrant, unpredictable heart of Gabon. His goal was to find Kwibi, now a fully grown, powerful silverback. But this was a mission many experts warned against. 5 years is an eternity in the wild. They told him Kwibi would have reverted, that the memories of a human companion would be buried under the instincts of survival and the responsibilities of leading a family. They said the animal he knew was gone, replaced by a wild creature who would, at best, not recognize him, and at worst, see him as a threat. The risk was immense. A silverback gorilla is immensely powerful, and a territorial male does not hesitate to defend his domain. But Damian held on to a different belief. He believed their connection was not a circumstance of captivity, but a genuine relationship that transcended species. So, he boarded a small boat and began the journey up the river, deep into the jungle that was now Kwibi's home. The air grew thick, the sounds of civilization faded, replaced by the symphony of the rainforest. With every mile, the doubt from the experts' warnings must have echoed louder. What if they were right? What if the gorilla he found bore no trace of the friend he had raised? His team called out Kwibi's name, the sound swallowed by the immense green canopy. They scanned the dense riverbanks for any sign. Hours turned into a day, the search feeling increasingly futile. They were looking for one specific gorilla in a vast, untamed wilderness. And then they saw him. On the bank, a magnificent silverback, the sunlight catching the patch of gray on his back. He watched the boat with a calm, imposing presence. It was Kwibi. The moment was thick with tension. Damian's team urged caution, their voices low and tense, but Damian knew he couldn't hesitate. He had to close the distance. He slipped out of the boat and into the shallow water, moving slowly, deliberately toward the shore. He was vulnerable, a man standing before a wild animal who could kill him with ease. He looked at the powerful gorilla and did something intimate, something that went beyond a simple name. He let out a low, guttural, affectionate sound, a sound they had shared countless times as youngster and caregiver. It was a question asked not in words, but in the language of their shared past. Kwibi stopped. He tilted his head, and in his eyes a flicker of something ancient and deep stirred. A look of recognition. The stoic mask of the wild silverback seemed to soften, just for a moment, replaced by a different kind of memory. The animal didn't charge. He didn't roar. He simply watched and listened to the familiar sound that had just crossed a 5-year silence. Slowly, cautiously, Kwibi moved toward the man in the water. He approached not with the aggression of a territorial silverback, but with a visible, tangible curiosity. He remembered. The gorilla reached out, not with a fist, but with a gentle hand, sniffing Damian, reacquainting himself with a scent and a presence he had not known for half a decade. And then, the moment that silenced all doubt. Kwibi wrapped his powerful arms around the man who had raised him, pulling him into an embrace of profound tenderness and trust. He began to groom Damian, a deep sign of affection and acceptance in gorilla society. He even introduced Damian to his wives, a gesture of absolute inclusion into his family. In that moment, on that remote riverbank, the line between human and animal simply dissolved. It was not just a reunion, it was a validation. It proved that the bonds of love and friendship are not confined by species, and that memory, in its purest form, is an emotional truth that even time and the wild cannot erase. Thank you for joining us. If this story moved you, please consider liking and subscribing. It truly helps us bring more stories like this to light. We have a question for you. What was the single moment in this story that resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one.